I was just wondering if you, Shane and Brandon, if you are incredulous about the moon landing. Do you think that it was just a Stanley Kubrick TV show?
I don't think it happened. Okay, no, look, this is how I really feel. There's something up there, and we might have went. What we saw is not the real landing, and I don't know if we know what the moon really is, but there is something there. I don't know what it is. I don't think anyone does. I don't think they're telling us what it is. But yeah, what we saw, not real. That's my take. Brandon?
I mean, I think it's real. I think it's there. I think it's a giant rock.
What?
It's been hit by other rocks over a course of tons and tons of amount of time.
What?
I've seen a lot of conspiratorial
Where?
whatnot and jibber
Where'd
jabber
you see
come from
that?
certain places.
Not
Maybe even in this room.
not for
But
me.
yeah, for me, I think I don't know if we've set foot. I haven't seen a Google map there yet showing me the flag, posted on, whatever street they've got up there now, or Fraumora Highlands, any of that stuff. But I do believe that we've messed with it.
Didn't you check out the street view?
That's what I mean. I feel like if we'd been there, there would be a stupid little Google car already up there just driving around in circles, mapping every inch of it, and we'd be able to look it up. So until that happens, I don't know.
You'd be able to see the McDonald's up there.
Yeah,
There's a
absolutely.
McDonald's there for sure. You know?
Yeah, there's a
And
Citgo up
there's
there.
a Coke bottle too. There's got to be a Coke bottle up there.
It's the last stop before Mars. So
That's what the MTV flag is, right? The VMA's flag. That's the only thing I see. It's kind of moonish.
Did they send
Anyway,
that? They send that up there too?
Yeah. And Elon has a convertible up there as well.
Yeah, I don't
me a
know where the
break.
hell that went. He just kind of launched that out into space, didn't he?
And what he said was, when it looks fake. I'm paraphrasing, but he goes, when it looks as fake, that's how you know it's real.
Fantastic.
So
Yeah,
he's the
yeah.
expert.
Anyway, I'm an old geezer, and I lived through that time, and I totally believe it, and I think there was nobody that questioned it at the time. Like nobody,
Yeah.
everybody bought it totally, and So I have a young friend. He's got to be like 36 or 35, and he doesn't believe it. He's an intelligent guy. He's very intelligent. He graduated in mathematics from the Sorbonne. And we were having lunch and here in Toronto, and he said, "No, I don't think we landed on the moon. I think the whole thing was just a Stanley Kubrick TV show." And I looked at him, my jaw dropped, and I couldn't believe it. He's an intelligent guy. He's a very, he's a very level-headed, good guy, and I just couldn't believe it that he doesn't. So anyway, for me, the people who say we didn't go are like the people who say the Earth is flat. To me, that's what I.
Well, I don't know if it's flat, but it might be pear-shaped.
I don't know about that either. I mean, I
Look,
think we went. I just
there's-
don't know that we've actually been on it. I don't. Something. The only part that irks me about any of this is that there's something preventing people from being on the surface physically.
Well,
ships
yeah,
maybe not
I mean,
so much. but
all the astronauts who were there, they all say that it's extremely depressing on the moon, and it's a very weird thing. Like if you listen to some of I saw this in some interviews. They all, when they came back, all the astronauts who walked on the surface of the moon, they all converted to religion when they came back. Some religion.
Interesting. I didn't
They
know
all
that.
they all joined some religion, whether it's Catholic or whatever it is, Buddhism. And they said it was extremely depressing to be on the moon. Very depressing.
like depressing as in like I'm gonna pop a Xanax, or like depressing as in like holy shit, I can feel my lungs getting flattened.
Totally depressing. Like it's like you question everything. You question our whole existence, and like there's this idea like the moon. There's nothing there. There's not a blade of grass. There isn't an ant. There's no clouds. There's no air. There's no water. There's nothing. It's
Yeah.
just it's dust. It's really literally that's what it is. It's gray dust. There's no, I mean, underground probably, like they have some minerals. I mean, but when you're on the surface, the astronauts said that you feel like you're at the bottom of the deepest hole you can imagine, and you don't know if you're going to be able to get out.
You basically just described Arizona, and people are still living there. So
Well, yeah, but Arizona has little things like crabs walking around. There's little insects and stuff, and
yeah,
snakes
no,
and,
there's definitely no
something
life up there.
right?
Yeah.
And you look in the sky and you can see clouds, you can see a blue sky, So it's not the same thing. The moon is like totally dead. It's absolutely dead. And these guys were overwhelmed by this really, really powerful feeling of depression. And so, like I said, when they all came back, they had to join some religion. But the other thing is, the reason why, or one of the things that I thought of to try and, convince people is the whole reason for going to the moon was it was a space race. The Americans were racing against the Russians to see who can get to the moon first,
Right.
because the moon was considered to be a giant weapons platform. Whoever can get on the moon can put ICBMs up there and just drop them down onto whatever target they want to drop them down to. So whoever gets up there and whoever can lay claim to the moon, they can use it as a weapons platform.
Why did Russia never put a man on the moon?
Because they lost the race, and the Americans won, and they put their flag up, and the Russians. I think the main problem with the Russians was they just couldn't afford it. I mean, they put everything into it, they put a lot of effort into it, but
But they never. It's weird to me that they never tried again. And even when Obama closed down our NASA missions to the moon, then we did joyrides with Russia, but no one ever went up. Like no other man has been there.
Because
weird.
there's no point in going there, really. I mean, like I said, it was kind of like a really, really depressing thing for the astronauts.
Have you watched the press conference with them when they come back? The first
I
ones?
saw some interviews with some of these guys on YouTube a long time ago.
They
like,
look depressed.
No, they said it was I don't know. It's difficult to describe. It's like it really pulls you down into sort of a deep depression when you're up there.
Well, that one lady that was up on the space station when they were trapped up there for X amount of time, when they brought her back, she looked like she aged like 25 years.
Imagine locking two people in a room that's
And-
painted like the International Space Station.
Yeah, she spoke, I think, of depression and stuff like that up there too.
Going to the moon is very, very scary because it's 240,000 miles away, and there's no ground control. I mean, there's a ground control, but it's so far away, and you're in this little tin can, and that's it. It's just you and two other guys. Actually, one guy's up in orbit around the moon, and there's two guys on the surface.
And I just wouldn't be surprised that we would lie to win the space race.
Yeah, but that doesn't make sense either, because if America was lying, the Russians would be the first ones to call you out on it, and they would be the first ones to explain this is all bullshit. They never went, and
Unless they never went there and actually confirmed it themselves.
And they all found out we can't go.
It's the only case I see that happening in.
No. They were both like I grew up I grew up at this time. It was a huge effort on both parties. The Americans and the Russians expended a lot of money, a lot of effort, a lot of, like, for example, it's not just Apollo. It was Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo. And the purpose of Mercury was just to figure out how to get into Earth orbit and how to come back with, like how to get a human being into orbit and bring him safely back. The purpose of Gemini was 2 rockets were launched with 2 capsules, 2 independent rockets, and these 2 capsules had to meet up in orbit and, so they can go from one capsule to the other, because they had to find each other in orbit, because it was part of the lunar orbit insertion concept. So you go with the LEM and the command module stays in orbit around the moon, and the spider goes down. But then when the 2 guys want to come back up, they have to rendezvous with the command module,
Right.
and that was the whole purpose of the whole Gemini thing. Like there were many, I don't know how many, I'm not an expert, but there were several Gemini missions, and they were always twin missions, because the whole purpose was to learn how do we find each other in orbit and then dock. It was like the Mercury was, how do we get up there, and then how do we come safely back from Earth orbit? Gemini was, how do 2 spaceships go up and find each other in orbit, because that's what they would have to do when the landing module goes back up from the moon. How do they find the command module? So that was what Gemini was all about.
So I'm not denying that we are traveling somewhere. We did hire Werner von Braun, who built the V2 rockets to launch people into something. But I think there's something about the moon story that is a myth. And it reeks to me of BS when NASA says, like they literally said, we can't go back because we lost the information to technology to go back. Like how
I think that's true. I think that makes sense. That I don't think that there's because the guys who were working on this, they all had white shirts. I'm going to get a little bit poetic here. They had white shirts and they had slide rules in their pockets and they had horn-rimmed glasses on. They looked kind of like nerds. The engineers, you didn't see any women in there. I don't want to get politically incorrect.
You got to keep
them out of NASA. These guys were totally into this shit. They were total nerds. There were no computers. In those days, a computer was like a building, and they had to figure out how do we miniaturize a computer. That's the reason why we have computers, is Apollo. It was a spin-off.
Well, right, that was definitely part of it, them aspiring to being able to fit a computer in one room. Like they were
not just that, but not just that.
They
had to get it onto the capsule.
So why did they save? Why would they save all of the JFK files, but not the NASA moon files?
I mean, it's the equivalency of like that tethering thing.
No. It isn't just files. It's not just files. You need people who have the skill and the know-how to do this. And the thing is, they didn't have computers.
So they didn't write it down?
You have to imagine. Look, when I started studying architecture, there were no computers. We had to do everything on the drafting table with pencils and straight edges. There's no such thing as a computer. We didn't use it. I didn't even use a computer until 2000.
But all the files from JFK were typed out on a typewriter.
I know. I'm not talking about the JFK files. I'm talking about the skill that's required to go to the moon. So the skill that's required to the moon is way more than just information. You also have people who know how to do it. It's like I can't think of a good analogy offhand, but around 1995 or 1996, probes were sent to Mars, and they were completely lost. And it was a big embarrassment for NASA. And then it turned out, and I don't remember, like I'm not a historic. There was one particular probe that was lost, and it turned out that there were two divisions of NASA that were working on this probe. One was the jet propulsion, and the other one was telemetry. Jet propulsion is in California, I think. Telemetry is in Colorado, I think. And they had to work together to put this probe together. And it turned out that the telemetry was headed by a woman, and the jet propulsion was also headed by a woman.
Jack Black's mom helped get... The story is that Jack Black's mom helped people get them to the moon.
JPL?
Yeah, she was a part of that whole... maybe not JPL, but she was in NASA.
Okay.
With doing something...
Anyway, I'm just saying that when they tried to send these probes to Mars, they had some difficulty, and they lost one probe. And it was like millions of dollars down the drain. And then when they did the investigations, they found out it was probably the problem was that one, jet propulsion and telemetry were using different units. One was using imperial units and the other one was using metric units, something along the lines. So the thing went way off course, and nobody has a clue where it went. This kind of thing wouldn't happen back in the day when they were doing the Mercury, because they took it seriously and they knew what they were doing. They weren't dicking around with DEI and all this crap, this woke garbage. You have to have a woman in charge, and you have to do. It was a totally different mindset, and it was in the middle of the Cold War, so it was very, very important that we get there before the Russians get there.
I wish I could say you were selling me, but you're making me think the moon's even faker.
There's more to it though. There was I don't want to waste your time. Just tell me if I'm taking too much time.
You can make your last point here, and then I'd like to continue this at some other point.
Okay. I was in Berlin and I was watching a documentary about the moonshot in Germany, a German documentary, and they said that the German engineers and the American engineers had a huge fight, like not fist fight, but they were yelling at each other, because Werner von Braun he didn't want the lunar insertion, the lunar orbit insertion, LOI concept. He thought it was really, really bad. It was too dangerous because he thought the astronauts didn't have the skill to be able to come back safely. So he wanted to launch 2 rockets into Earth orbit, and one is just intended to refuel the other one, and then they go with a whole rocket to the moon, and the whole rocket comes down, like what Tesla's doing now. I mean, what Elon Musk is doing now, where the rocket comes down and lands. The whole rocket lands, and then they were supposed to, because that way you wouldn't have to rely on the astronauts for all the mathematics and all that stuff. And in those days, the computer was a relatively new thing. Anyway, there was a big. It's something that I never saw here in North America, but in Germany it was like a big deal, and it showed a whole side to this that we never saw here. Our media didn't tell us about this. This argument between the Germans and the Americans. The Americans wanted the LOI concept. Werner von Braun wanted the whole rocket to land on the moon. And there was a big argument about it. They were fighting about it, and they illustrated this clearly on this documentary. And it's another. And Werner von Braun, his whole thing, the reason why he's a genius is because he had the idea to put a water pump inside the V2 rocket to increase the thrust of the fuel going into the combustion chamber to get enough thrust to get the thing to go into orbit. And nobody thought of that before. And he had the idea to use a water pump from a fire truck. So he got a company in Germany that specialized in water pumps, and they designed a custom water pump, but not for water, but to use for the liquid oxygen and the fuel.
Yeah, Werner von Braun was pretty wild.
I'm just saying there's all kinds of elaborate things going on here. This wasn't a Stanley Kubrick thing. I mean, it was anyway. Okay, I can't
agree to disagree. But I love this conversation. I love the conversation. I appreciate you sharing that with us, and feel free to call back anytime.
Okay.
Have a good one.
Thanks, man.